Rhythm is life. Rhythm is soul. I say, let's get it right this time. Let love unfold.
That there is an objective world, a shared objective world. That is an assumption. And we use our senses to contact that shared objective world. What I'm saying is that the senses are not there to contact a shared objective world. I'm saying, could it be that our senses are projecting an apparent objective world?
Oh, absolutely.
I'm saying, I'm turning it around. I'm saying it's awareness,
especially the
projects,
mind.
Yes, awareness through the mind projects a world which is not actually there.
Yes.
So our senses are not there to capture an objective world.
Correct. At all.
Shared. Exactly. So,
correct.
Because otherwise we would say first there's matter, there's space, there's a real world made out of matter. It's really there. And then I'm somehow in this world, and this body somehow has senses, and through those senses I can capture something that's going on out there, outside my skull, outside my body.
Yep.
And what I'm asking is, personally, I think it's the other way around. I think it's awareness through a mind projects a world which is like
it absolutely is.
Like a virtual reality.
That's what I mean by it all dovetails back.
Exactly. So, but there's a big difference between whether you start from a physical material world where your body is included, your body has senses, and then your body is able to sort of scan or capture through senses something which is actually out there. And what I'm saying is, I don't believe there's actually anything out there. Even quantum physics says there is no matter, there is no space, there isn't anything out there, let alone an objective shared world.
So I'm not talking. I'm certainly not referring.
A bit metaphysical. Maybe it's not exactly what we're talking about here, but it's just.
Can't both be true?
One sec, Lindy, one sec. Which end do we want to start at, Alex?
Well, every day, this body mind, included in this virtual reality, is more and more convinced that this is just some sort of a simulation or virtual reality. I'm just more and more convinced about that. I don't think there is actually a real physical world there where we can interact with, because that again would be that duality. From my point of view, and I may be completely wrong, the mind or awareness or mind via awareness is primordial. It's not physicality that's there, it's the mind that's there. And in the mind, we project what appears to be a physical world.
That's why I keep
saying it.
That's why I keep saying that the mind believes the world is not. Absolutely is not. Same as that the mind believes me is, absolutely is not. You're right. You're right.
It's a sort of top down.
No, look, what you're
sort of bottom up. It's top down.
What you're saying ultimately is correct. Ultimately, it's correct. What you're saying, one second. A couple of things pop up. Ultimately, what you're saying is correct. But sometimes, you got to tackle both ends of the stick. Sometimes, until one arrives. Yeah. Like Alex, like I can remember when all the lights turned on here, for lack of a better way of putting it. Yeah. One of the first things that kind of dawned on me was every single solitary thing, and I mean everything, that I'd heard, learnt, studied, viewed in regards to non-duality and this supposed way home, none of it was true. Not a skerrick. Not a skerrick of it was actually true. None of it. It blew me away. And then I started to see how, well, with that, in seeing that, then the first thought that popped into my head, excuse me, was got to be a better way of communicating this. Yet, knowing that whatever the better way of communicating this, still not it. Yeah, absolutely still not it. So we fluff around using dualistic language like it's amazing. Yeah, this is called non-duality. And all we do is speak dualistically about, non-duality. The irony of that, really, the best way to communicate this would be to just sit here and say nothing. Just be still. Yeah, that'd be the best way. That'd be the most accurate way. Oh, hang on, guys. How do I get that back? Here, I think. There we go. One sec. It's my son calling me. I've got to let him know I'm. There we go. Yeah, like, and I can remember even experiencing that when I was going through this process. There'd be certain pointers that'd be brought up and I'd have to look at the pointer until it was like that was seen or that was understood, and then that pointer became irrelevant. Didn't even need to consider it anymore. And I saw that it was just a pointer. And that kind of happens along the way. Yeah. Until, like all the lights turn on, you go, oh my Jesus God. Any utterance of this is not it. Everything's a pointer. There's nothing absolute that you can say about this. The closest you could get in terms of a factual seeming experience, the closest you could get would be to say, I am. Like there's some kind of existence here. There's something.
And does that existence depend on the five senses? That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
You said before, if you don't think, taste, eat, smell, etc.,
yeah,
then what do you experience? And I'm suggesting
yeah.
that without those senses, there is still a sense of beingness without the senses. That's what I'm suggesting.
If we removed every sense, whatever that sense may be, yeah, from every living thing, all completely removed, from insects, from birds, from animals, from human beings, yeah, what I'm suggesting is, if that was completely, absolutely removed, you know, what experience of beingness would there be? See, that to me would be, and I'm struggling here a little, but that to me would be the absolute in its primordial state. No experience of beingness yet. Yeah. And the first pulse from that absolute is the love to be. And the first thing that pulses out from that, or as that, is consciousness. That's the first thing. Yeah. Well, the first thing, everything happens at the same time. Beings, things, space, senses, it all just goes blah. Yeah. In the absence of the senses, it would be like in the absence of consciousness. In the absence of consciousness, there'd be no experience yet. Not that there's you have to understand, I'm not implying that there's a beginning, that at some point the absolute was just dormant, and then all of a sudden it decided at some point to, big bang itself, if you like. and then everything kind of came into being, and there was an experience of being. So even the story's wrong. Yeah. Trying to, no beginning, no end. It's just constantly happening now, now, constantly, And just as a pointer, I say, yeah, if look, what I'm really pointing to when I say body, space, consciousness, absolute, yeah, what I'm really trying to point to there is the experience of consciousness at this point, just at this point, yeah, the experience of consciousness itself. And what is that? What is that like? Does anybody know from their direct experience what it's like to be conscious? The direct experience of being conscious, not conscious of, but just the direct experience of consciousness itself. Still a medium, but we can't deny the fact that there is consciousness. But we ordinarily don't get any further than being conscious of. Now, when we first stumble into this, the only thing we're conscious of is that goes on in our head. Really. Yeah. And we perceive seeming self, and the seeming world through this. And there's consciousness not focused on anything else, So it's like being in a state of being unconscious, in fact. Not aware of consciousness at that point. We start to come out of the mind, see the mind for what it is. We start to see stuff that's really actually occurring. And we start to experience. Yeah, go on.
Terry, I mean, when you're dreaming, or when there's dreaming, because there's not a you dreaming, when there's dreaming, it can be dreaming of colors, sounds, tastes, smells, etc. In the dreaming.
Yep.
And those physical senses in the body are not needed for that.
Yep.
So there are 5 virtual senses in dreaming.
And they seem quite real in the dream. Yeah.
And then we wake up and then we say, but these are real senses because they're here on this body. They belong to a body, and I'm awake now, and these are real senses. And I'm using these senses to be in contact with the world out there.
Yeah.
I'm suggesting it's still the same dream.
It is. It is still the same dream. It's just that
Still the same.
Yes. It's just that mind is still attached to the senses or the seeing, hearing, tasting, and what it is, and being dependent on it, need it. You're quite right. Like from see, the only actual real experience, if we can even call it that, is consciousness. That's it. But the experience of consciousness itself, not the things in it or the senses in the body, or just the experience of consciousness itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to make a distinction that there isn't experience because they are real sense organs in a real body that is actually capturing information in an objective shared world, which is somehow being processed. That's what I'm not too sure about, and I think it's the other way around. I think it's still a projection of consciousness through a mind. It's a one-way direction. It's not bottom up. It's up, from top to bottom.
It is.
And when it's not projecting those 5 sense organs and thinking, I think there can still be an experience. Maybe it's an energy, or maybe it's another sense we are not aware of. There may be another new sense we're not aware of.
Yeah.
I mean, there are many more senses. Animals have different senses.
Yeah.
And I have more than a feeling, a conviction that there is still a possibility of an experience without projecting those 5 sense organs and the thinking. There's still a knowing of, maybe it's an energy, or I don't know, but I think there can still be an experience. And you know why I'm telling you this? We've talked about it many times, about an experience with very, very strong psychedelics.
Yeah.
And there can be an attempt to describe this experience. There's always been an attempt from here to describe that experience. Yet I cannot say there was thinking going on, and I cannot say there was an input from those 5 sense organs. There was no sense of sight, sound, etc. No, yet there was still a sense of here-ness.
Yeah.
Without even a body, without even space, yet there's still this here-ness. Call it that way if you want. There's still this here-ness, and there was no sense organs, no senses, and not even thought going on.
Yep.
And that's what I'm trying to share somehow. And that's why I've always been so convinced that it's the other way around. It's somehow the world, the body, the senses, the whole experience is being projected.
It is
out.
It totally is. What you're describing, I would call consciousness. Keep in mind that's also just a label, right? But what you're describing, I would call the direct experience of consciousness itself. Yeah. And that's where I try and get people to go. Go there. Yeah. Not that there's a person to go there, and we could chat about that too, but you know what I mean. Yeah. That direct experience. Where everything else falls away, because there's no division there. No mind, there's no duality there. It's just the direct experience. So all duality ceases. Yeah. Even a sound that may be heard whilst one is residing there is the absolute experience that the sound is not separate. I am that also. Yeah. It's all contained in consciousness, if you like. Can't even say it's contained in consciousness. Arises. Even that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need to be practical, because you could get completely lost in metaphysics, and it's not really very helpful for somebody that's suffering.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think non-duality. There's a very, very interesting part, which is a metaphysical part. You know, and you can mix it up with quantum physics and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Consciousness and all that.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we don't need to go that far, I think.
Not initially, no.
To realize what's actually making us suffer.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the practical part of the teaching of non-duality, not so much the metaphysical part.
Yeah, yeah. Look, you know, it's why, you know, even the statement that I make, which is, the route is coming to see what you're not. Yeah. Even that statement. Who the hell am I saying that to? Like really? Like really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yet it's a valid route. It's not even a route, but it's a valid. Yeah. Otherwise, that we're not, which is, you know, just a projection of mind. It's all imagined. It's, you know, goes looking for what it is. Yeah. And the only problem with that is, you know, what the, like, you know, not self goes to satsangs and reads books and sits with this teacher and flies off to India and sits in an ashram for a couple of years meditating, and, you know, and then one day, finally, one day, untrue self finds true self. That's major dilemma. But you know, yeah. So really, the route, you know, the correct route is that you're looking for. You already are. Yeah. And let's start from there and come to see what you're not. Yeah. Instead of starting from this conceptual idea of who and what I am and who and what the world is, instead of starting from there and trying to find what the hell's trying to find what it is, a concept, just mind, just a projection. Yeah. And hours prior to that, yeah, I mean, there's absolute validity in what you're saying, Alex. You know, it's and frankly,
I mean, for me, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I understand.
Yeah,
I
it
understand.
doesn't make any sense that there's this body made out of mostly space and atoms and protons and neutrons and electrons,
and they all have space.
Has sense organs that are able to know other electrons, protons, neutrons, and other space. It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't add up. It's just bizarre that we even believe that.
I know.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
I mean, how can a bunch of atoms, because if this body is presumably made out of atoms, even our brain is presumably made out of atoms, how can a bunch of atoms actually know another bunch of atoms?
Yeah.
How can physically, scientifically explain that? Yeah. But we start up from the concept of a knowing body, a body that knows through its senses and somehow sends all the information back up to awareness.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't send all the information back up to awareness, up to the cloud, where it can be processed.
Yeah.
No, it's the other way around. It can't be that way.
Yeah.
It can't be that way.
Yep. And you and I,
you might just as well say that a tree can know another tree. Because the tree is made out of atoms and it can know another tree. No, a tree cannot know another tree. And this body is not knowing a world.
Yeah.
It's all on the same side of the fence. It's all on one side of the fence.
Yeah.
There's not another side which is knowing one side.
Yeah.
It just doesn't add up.
Yeah. And what can we say about consciousness itself?
It's all there is.
Is it made of atoms? Does it have space? Is it a thing? Like, yeah, right? Yeah.
That's a mystery. It's just, you know, it's just this mystery gets getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and you think, how is there even life? How is there even knowing? It gets, you know, you seem to you grow up believing you know what the world is, the universe, the Big Bang, atoms, planets, matter, and all that, and then you reach a point where you, no way, it just, you know, and not only that, it just gets more and more weird. You know, you don't get any closer to knowing this conceptually.
No.
Not at all.
No.
All you can do is marvel at this mystery, you know.
Yeah. And how marvelous it is.
Incredible. Yeah.